Today, we're going to be talking about building and rebuilding belonging in recovery. I'm Robyn Harvey. I'm the National Director of Training and Technical Assistance for Be Strong Families. And joining me today is Sabrina Mason. And she is reigning from Washington, D.C. And Sabrina serves as a peer support specialist and a recovery coach. So we want to welcome Sabrina too. Kristen from Kentucky, hello. Hi, Mindy from Idaho, nice to see you. And Samantha from Kentucky. Hi, everybody. All right, we're just going to give you a couple more seconds to check in, put where you're from. I love this part of the webinar. Personally, I love to see how far reaching these webinars are. So Illinois, Idaho, DC, Minnesota, Kentucky, that's great. And as Andrew's reminding you in the chat, when you go to the chat, please go to the drop-down menu and select everyone. And we have another from DC. Hi, Ronnie. Nice to have you. And Tammy from Washington State. That's on my bucket list, Tammy. I want to get out there. I hear it's beautiful. All right, so there's a couple ways to engage during these webinars. When you're ready to speak, please raise your hand and we'll unmute you. You'll then need to unmute yourself so you can be heard. We like to have as many people bring their voices into the room as possible, so don't be shy. And then the other option is to type your comments in the group chat and make sure it's going to everyone. On the screen, you'll see the little carrot that Andrew is talking about. Please do everyone. And then there are times when there's lots of hands raised and lots of chats going on. Please be patient with us. We're going to bring as many people's voices into the room on this really important topic as possible. All right, so Be Strong Families, we run our webinars with agreements. If we can speak from our own experiences using I statements, we use the golden rule and treat everybody like we want to be treated. We bring our full presence, no multitasking. And if you could really try to stick to that one, I know it's an hour long, but it's an hour for you to sit and rest and to participate fully. And then if you need a minute, go ahead and take your minute and come right back. If you agree, if you could type I agree into the chat so we can assure everybody understands this is a very safe space to share. Thank you. Thank you, Kristen, Samantha, Tammy, Kelly. Awesome. Thank you. Mindy, April, Brenda. Good. Awesome. I'm so super excited about our topic today. All right. And Maria, thank you very much. All right, Andrew, you want to go ahead and forward one? Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about social support and how it is a very important, powerful, and beneficial force in the recovery process. The benefits of social support are so many, and I'm so excited to have Sabrina Mason with us today. She serves as a recovery coach and a peer support specialist. So she's going to talk to us a lot about what these supports look like in actuality and how they can assist people on their recovery journey. I met Sabrina, about 6 months ago, Sabrina? And we were together in a Recovering Together Cafe Training Institute. So Sabrina had already been trained on how to implement Be Strong Family Parent Cafés into her work. And then we did an augmentation of that training using our Recovery Together cards, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So Sabrina, for the last 6 months, has been hosting Recovering Together Cafés with her peers, with her clients, and using them to the fullest extent possible. So thank you, Sabrina. Thanks so much for being here today. So let's talk about all of these benefits. So social support can counteract shame, isolation, and secrecy. Sabrina, you want to talk about that one for just a second?
Yes, and thank you so much, Robyn, for this opportunity. Now, with recovery comes the stigma, um, because people sometimes will recall when you were in use. And we know that our behaviors are not the same when we're in recovery. And so that can be one of the stigmas. And then you find people that are not so open-minded for change. And they will continue, they may see you as before. But as time goes on and you continue to maintain your sobriety and your recovery, people get a new light of you. They see you to do a new light, because a lot of things will change.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. It also
Absolutely.
brings a sense of belongingness and inclusion. And we often see this with our new social groups, our new social connections, that they become stronger and the old connections fall by the wayside. There's also a sense of safety and security in social support, reduced stress, decreased isolation, and loneliness. Can you talk about that one, Sabrina? Reduced stress, decreased isolation, and loneliness?
Yes, Robyn, as we make our new connections and increase our network, we find ourselves amongst positive people and people who are just like us and want a new beginning in a better way. And so, with conversing and joining with our new connections, our stress levels go down. We find ourselves learning how to cope and manage by doing positive things and changing our thinking.
All right. Another one is an enhanced sense of meaning and purpose. I'm going to let you talk about this one too, Sabrina, because I think this one is really important.
I'm sorry, Rob, would you repeat that one?
Yeah, sure. An enhanced sense of meaning and purpose.
Oh, yes. Well, we all have a purpose, and we wouldn't be here if we didn't. And we kind of learn our purpose. And sometimes we transition into a new purpose. Just staying positive and keeping life will bring new opportunities to us. And, we find ourselves giving back and helping others is one of the main purposes.
Yeah, I think that that's really awesome. And I think that your program, the peer support specialist program, is one of those things that a lot of people on their recovery journeys are giving back into.
Absolutely.
And then there's
Absolutely.
hope, optimism in the future, the opportunity to escape the narrow world of one's own concerns. And that brings us back to the top one. So you can see that when you're on a road to recovery, having a social connection, having a group of social connections is so vital to staying on that path. Sabrina, can you talk about that a little bit? Like, how do your new friends, how does this new sense of belonging, this new sense of safety and security, how does that spur you on to remain steadfast in that recovery?
Well, it feels good, Robyn. And I think that's one of the purposes because, um, you know, um, prior, I can remember being very sick and not feeling well a lot of days, and my life being very unmanageable, to say the least. Um, but now I have direction. We have there's a routine. There's manageability. There's prospects. So it's just very enlightening.
Thank you. All right, Andrew, you can go to the next slide. All right, everyone. So we're going to watch two videos. We're going to watch them back to back. The first one is just a minute long, and it just kind of gives us a backdrop and foundation for our conversations. And the second one is a 12-minute TED Talk. And this is going to bring another person who's on their recovery journey's voice into the room. Andrew, you can play these right back to back.
Staying connected. At our online conversation cafes, we ask people what's helping them to stay well during lockdown. People told us it's important to feel connected and part of a community. Some of us connect through peer support groups, telephone appointments and online activities like writing groups and baking classes. Being creative, making things and sending them to friends and neighbours, or just sharing pictures helps some people feel connected. Helping others and sharing experiences creates a sense of belonging for many. Sometimes we don't feel like talking and need some time to ourselves to rest and recharge. Appreciating nature or visiting new places online through the eyes of others connects us. Saying hello to neighbours while walking the dog or even waving from the window makes a difference. Nothing can replace face-to-face, but we can still feel meaningful connections. How are you staying connected?
Thank you, Andrew. And I changed my mind, so don't play that just yet. I just really wanted to highlight the fact of the matter is that we are still in a pandemic, and a lot of people are unable to connect face to face, including a lot of Be Strong Families events. Be Strong Families has really done an awesome job putting all of our cafes and trainings online in a virtual world. And so while I agree that we miss our face-to-face cafes, our online cafes are serving a really vital purpose in helping people all over the world really stay connected. All right, Andrew, you can push play now.
Hi. I'm going to start with a short story, the story of Peter. Peter was someone I met while I was doing research, following up people in recovery over a course of 4 years. And I remember well that I met Peter for the very first time in 2010, and he was 55 years old then. And it was one of the first days of spring, and the air seemed filled with opportunity. And I remember well that we were sitting in the office of his treatment provider, and the room was infused with the smell of bad coffee and yesterday's cigarette smoke. And Peter was sitting there together with me, and he was sharing his life story. He told me that he started using drugs when he was 12 years old. And by the age of 20, he was a daily heroin user. He lived on the streets of Antwerp all day, all night. But that day in 2010, he was very proud. He was proud because he was in recovery. He was sober for more than 15 years. And he told me that he had 2 new goals in his life. The first one was that he wanted to regain contact with his son, Louis. And the second one was a very clear statement. He told me, I choose to be alive. I would like to grow old peacefully, without drugs and without living on the streets. As the years went by, I saw Peter a couple of times, and every time I saw him, he grew closer and closer to meeting his life goals. And then in 2014, we had a meeting, or I wanted to have a meeting with him to have that final follow-up interview. And I tried to contact him, but he didn't answer his phone, not during the day, not during the night. So I tried to contact one of his emergency contacts, his friend Paul. And after a while, Paul answered me very briefly, well, I'm very sorry that I am the one to bring you this news, but Peter died of a heroin overdose. He has lost the fight. Now, the amount of people dying from a drug overdose is steadily increasing. In the US, we see that the amount of drug deaths has doubled in a decade, and in 2017, more than 70,000 Americans died of a drug overdose. That's equal to 1/3 of people living in Ghent in one single year. Now, I have been studying addiction, and I've been studying recovery for more than 10 years. I've been talking to drug users, former drug users, their families, prosecutors, judges, treatment providers, policymakers, academics. And one thing I know for sure is that most persons who get addicted to drugs do recover, but it takes time. And the research from Michael Dennis and Christy Scott teaches us that the pathway to stable recovery takes more or less 5 to 7 years. And today, I'm going to tell you how we, so you and I, can be a very crucial part of that pathway to stable recovery. People recover due to a combination of 3 components. Personal components like, I'm getting older and I don't want to die as an addict. Social components like, I've met the woman of my dreams, I want to marry her, so I want to change. And then community components like, the community I'm living in is giving me the opportunities to change. In fact, these are 3 types of love. Self-love, love by others like friends and family and partners, and love by the community. And in the beginning, our research mainly focused on the personal and the social components, but today, we as researchers, we know that what is equally important, or maybe more important, is that love offered by the community, because recovery, it doesn't happen in a vacuum, it happens in our community. The thing is that love offered by the community is a very, very, very difficult one. So I'm going to ask you a question, and you simply can answer that question by raising your hand, or if you don't agree, don't let it be, okay? So the question is, do you want to live next to a drug user in recovery? If you want to live next to one, raise your hand. Okay. Maybe this is a bit biased and I'm a bad scientist now, but the same question has been asked to hundreds of people living in the UK. And that survey in 2015 indicated that more than 50% of citizens, like people like you and I, we don't want to live next to a drug user in recovery. And 2/3 of employers, they said that they don't want to hire a former heroin user, even if that person is fit for the job. So what this survey indicates is that addiction seems to be an irreversible stain, that people in active addiction and people in recovery from addiction, they almost face the same type of stigma and discrimination. People like Peter, they repeatedly told me that landlords and employers, they don't trust them. And even their own family, their loved ones, don't trust them anymore. We, as a community, we systematically fail in providing safety nets like jobs and housing and love. Yet, there are examples of other communities who do a much better job. And an American colleague and very dear friend of mine, Professor Caroline Cooper, she studies how tribes, like Native American tribes, Aboriginals, are dealing with this issue. And she found out that to them, the health of the community is only as strong as the health of its individual members. And when someone from that community gets lost or gets on the wrong track, they intervene as a community by giving that person more strength and more love instead of focusing on the problems that person is experiencing. And Believe me, this is very, very different from what I have experienced in working with our Belgian communities, because we focus on the individual and not on the community, and we focus on the risks that the person is facing and will be facing in the future, and not on the strengths. So, don't you think it's time for a drastic shift? Don't you think that we as a community, we should take up our supporting role and act and help people in recovery? I think it is. So, together with my UK colleague and recovery expert, David Best, we have shaped and developed a concept that we describe as inclusive cities. In an inclusive city, the city works together with city council, public and private organizations, welfare, health, people in recovery, citizens, people like you and I are sitting around the table, and they are identifying like the obstacles in the recovery process of their citizens. And today, cities like Ghent, Gothenburg, Doncaster are sitting around a table, and they are thinking about future initiatives that they can implement to foster recovery in their community, in their city. I'll give you two inspirational examples that have been deployed in some of these cities. The first one. One of the main characteristics of people who have been using meth or heroin to extremes are their rotten teeth. And you can imagine that this is a physical obstacle. It makes access to jobs and love very difficult. So why can't we, as a city, as a community, work together with dentists to solve this physical obstacle and to erase the signs of the former addiction? Why can't we follow the example of Blackpool? The city of Blackpool works together with a construction company, and they hire persons in recovery to renovate buildings in the city. And once these buildings are renovated, they are rented back to the recovery community. This initiative is called Jobs, Friends and Houses. But you don't have to be a dentist, or you don't have to own a construction company to make a change. Even small things matter. And if you're still wondering what you can do to make a change in your community, I will give you three small examples, three small ideas. First, in the build-up to this conference, I deliberately shared a wrong title of this talk. Never Walk Alone as an Addict. So maybe you think, well, that seems to be a good title. No, it isn't, because there is something wrong with the second part of the title, addict. I'm using very stigmatizing language. And within a couple of hours after this title went online, I received a comment through LinkedIn. And I have to say, I was very happy and relieved that this person raised it, because he was pointing to the essence of my talk. Namely, it takes a village to recover, and the words that we are using is very powerful, and we should opt to choose words that are empowering and strengthening instead of words that are hurting and hindering someone. Second, research tells us that we discriminate more often when we're not familiar with something. So one of the main goals of our inclusive cities concept is that we make recovery visible and that we celebrate it, because we celebrate a lot of things in our lives. We celebrate births, we celebrate marriages, graduations, sweet 16s, but we don't celebrate recovery. We keep it hidden. We keep it silent. And in fact, it's a pity that only the negative consequences of drug addiction seem visible in our communities, like intoxicated people dwelling on the streets or needles in the park. So one of the things that you can do is you can attend or you can organize yourself things like recovery weeks or recovery months, including these events, like the recovery games in Doncaster. They also organize recovery walks and recovery bike rides. The thing is, the community organizes events to bring people from the same community together to celebrate recovery. Third, you could join our community, our online community. David Best and I, we have set up a website, inclusivecities.info. And by simply clicking that button, you could be part of that online love community. We would like to use that website to share ideas and to share evolutions of inclusive cities and different initiatives that have been implemented in all of these cities across the globe. Now, what I want you to remember from this talk is that addiction could happen to all of us. In fact, it could be happening to the person sitting next to you. Nobody wakes up and decides to become a drug user addicted to drug use. Peter didn't. But recovery is possible. And the fact is that nobody should walk recovery alone. And if you know someone who is struggling with addiction or struggling with recovery, you can offer that person some help by finding a job or finding housing or by being a buddy. Or simply go to that person, sit next to him or her and say, "Hey, I'm here, I love you, and you don't have to walk your recovery path alone." Thank you.
All right, Andrew, you can go to the next slide when you can. All right, how was that for you? How did those two clips relate to belonging and connection? Or what was your best idea that came, or what was the best idea that came out of one of those? How was that? Go ahead, Sabrina. You can unmute yourself. Yep, you did.
I really enjoyed that, how the speaker was talking about the community, community involvement. Because what I see now is that there's a lot of support in the communities, in the court systems, different nonprofits, and also this very Recovering Together Cafe. That is a wonderful connection, and the fact that y'all are going to be here for the next 2 Fridays at 12 noon, October the 22nd and 29th, that's a great start, and I look forward to that, as a part of a new connection. Yeah, I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Sabrina.
You're so welcome.
Yes, we are. And Maria says it takes a village/community. Yes, it does. And Brenda offered, we all need to be involved. We do. That's absolutely correct. If you are a part of a cafe community, you can take a look at the Recovering Together cards and see if they're applicable for your community. Like the presenter of the TED Talk said, we don't know who's on a road to recovery. We don't know who's struggling with addiction. And it would be great if we could all start to support them.
That's right.
Anybody else? What was your takeaway from the video clips? What are you taking away other than we need to be involved? Because that's just the truth. There was a couple things that I wrote down during mine, and I can grab them fast enough. Something that the lady on the TED Talk said that hit me really hard was that oftentimes our communities treat people on a recovery journey like they have an irreversible stain. That kind of stabbed me, because that brings this into a diversity, equity, and inclusion realm for me. We need to treat all people with dignity and respect, despite their challenges, despite what's going on in their life. They deserve to be treated with dignity. They deserve to be in our spaces. I remember when I was younger and I was having this conversation with my mother because they wanted to bring a juvenile justice home into our community. And my mom was like, oh, not in my backyard. And that's where this kind of led me back to is we need to have spaces in our backyards, proverbially, that people can come to, that they're treated with dignity and respect. Any other takeaways other than mine?
Yes, Robyn, on that same note, we have to show love, show mercy, because it's been given to us in many areas of our own lives, whether it be recovery or whatever. So loving someone until they can love themselves is a real thing, everybody deserves a new beginning or a second chance. We get them all the time, in different things, whether it be a job or whatever, and a new beginning and new connections. This is really real, to build our network with new people, new positive things, and just to love on one another.
Thank you, Sabrina. Andrew, can you go to the next slide? All right, so what is community support? I'm just going to read this out loud because I think it's really a powerful piece of writing. The word support is very broad. So what makes something community support? Community support is defined as a group of people who provide resources and support of all types to each other. These community networks are typically structured and hold group meetings to share stories and support. People in these communities will usually share valuable sobriety information, necessities like an outfit for an interview, emotional support, concrete assistance, such as a place to live, and more. And this came from an article that I was reading about the importance of support while in recovery from addiction. Maria offered the resource, the Tribe and the Dental Program created an actual practice on how to empower a person in the journey of recovery, particularly as research says the pathway to stable recovery takes from 5 to 7 years. Did you know that already, Maria, about the 5 to 7 years? Because I did not, and I was startled that that is a long, long time. Go ahead and flip the slide, Andrew. All right. So what is community support? So you'll see here, I just pulled out some of these words in orange. People who provide resources and hold group meetings to share stories and support, to share valuable sobriety information, and emotional support. This sounds a lot like a Recovering Together cafe. Sabrina, you want to talk about some of your experiences in the Recovering Together cafes?
Yes, in the Recovering Together cafes, one of the main things I appreciate is that we take an agreement. We make an agreement that what is said in the cafes stays in the cafes. Respect each other. We take our hats off. We're not clinicians. We all just come as we are and share what we like to share. Those that are not comfortable, they can place it in the chat. Those that would like to vocalize their opinions are welcome to do so. It becomes a very relaxing place that you look forward to coming back to weekly. That has been my experience. And it's just positive. And seeing people come back and share about things, and it's delightful. We share about things, how we're really feeling, whether that is kind of, having a bad hair day or whatever, just keeping it real, because, hey, we are who we are,
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So Andrew posted a couple of things. Sabrina had talked about the Recovering Together Cafés, the tastes of them that we're going to be doing this Friday and next Friday. The registration link is in the chat. And then Maria is also offering, the church that I'm a member of actually offers a weekly crew with an open door policy for everyone on the journey of recovery, led by a couple who are also in recovery. That's awesome, Maria. Go to the next slide, Andrew. And this is just a little bit of information on how the Recovering Together Cafés were designed and how they evolved. So it's a partnership between Be Strong Families and the Net Center of Philadelphia and Greater Tilton Resource Center, which is a treatment center, recovery support in New Hampshire. So there's 300 questions that are both in English and Spanish, and they don't all focus directly on recovery. It's a meeting about the vitality domains. Actually, I was going to say the protective factors, but they're actually on the vitality domains. And it is that any personal transformative change effort is enhanced by social support. So people who are struggling with addiction and the people who love them, we recover together. The cafe was created, I said that, by 3 different agencies, and there's 63 individuals who have both lived experience or professional experience in the addiction and recovery field. These cafes, they promote well-being by building the Be Strong Families domains of vitality, which are physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, environmental, and social. Be Strong Families and agencies all over the nation are offering Recovering Together Cafés as a valuable contribution to the recovery process. These cafes catalyze peer support to the momentum sustained. Anything you want to add on that, Sabrina?
Yes, that peer support piece, it's just really a blessing to be able to be supportive and to love on people until they love on themselves, until they're able to love on themselves, and to see the progress, to go from hopeless to hopeful. So it's just an opportunity that is just a wonderful experience.
I love that. Thank you. All right, Andrew, you can forward the slide. All right, so Recovering Together. This is the part of our webinar where we're hoping that we're going to get some people to be engaged in talking and sharing ideas and concepts. So the first question we're going to ask today is, why is community support necessary for a successful recovery? And I'm going to open this to the large group. Remember, if you want to bring your voice into the room, you can raise your hand and we can call on you and unmute you. Or you can just type it into the chat and I will go ahead and read this. So why is it necessary for a successful recovery to have the community support? Anyone? Andrew, do you want to go to the put the second and the third questions up too, so people can pre-write if they want? Thanks. And how do agencies and organizations become safe places for people on a recovery journey? And how do you provide hope for the people who you serve who are in recovery? Maria said it's less stigmatizing. Yes. And how, I don't even know how to ask this question properly, so forgive me if I stumble over my words. But she said, the lady on the TED Talk said, that we may not know that somebody is on a recovery journey. So how do we move through our organizations and make them safe places for everybody? How do we bring the recovery world, the recovery community in to serve them? All right, Kim, go ahead. You have your hand raised.
Yes, I do.
All right, go
Hi.
ahead.
What I was trying to do, I know we're working with a family today here at our center, and she's trying to recover. She wants to go into recovery. And so we gave her a lot of information, not to overwhelm her, but to put her in touch with various programs that can satisfy her needs, what she's trying to do, recover, and even some MH issues, plus just trying to meet her needs because she didn't know of a lot of things. And being that we're still in COVID, things have changed even with that. So it was very helpful for her to even give her notebooks and pens so she could write down information, hook her up with places, because she's trying to also get her children back. So we gave her a wealth of information. We didn't just throw it at her. We sat down, we made phone calls for her. And then she has a partner who was in need of trying to get Social Security issues, like a card. So it was very helpful to try to connect her without trying to overwhelm her, but it was helpful for her life.
Thank you, Kim. And that does sound like a delicate balance to not overwhelm people with that information, but also get information into their hands so when they need it, they can have it.
Yes, we made calls with her too. So that was
That's
helpful.
awesome. Kudos to you guys.
Sure.
Katie says, could provide longevity towards a person's recovery? Yes. Brenda offered, if everyone is not on board as support, there'll be too many to drag the recovering person down. Thank you, Brenda. Melissa offered, people need that support to help them socially. Sometimes there is such a deep shame and many lose a lot of people already along the way. Go ahead, Sabrina, go ahead and talk. Hope you put yourself.
Okay, yeah, what I did want to say was what the individual did state about case, doing that case management work. Sometimes people.
Hope you put yourself back on mute.
Direction.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's just so much going on. And so to have someone as a peer support person, support specialist, or a case manager, or just a loving person to help direct them, and do some of that work for them, it's really wonderful. Also, I see a lot of work going on, or starting to go on right at the courts or before, while individuals are incarcerated, for maybe activities that they have committed or crimes they have committed while under the influence. So that is a very important aspect of reaching people very early.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We have a couple more comments here. Melissa says, people need that support to help them socially. Sometimes there's a deep shame and many lose a lot of people already along the way. Yolanda is offering our agency has been able to support families by providing financial scholarships to pay for their bills, co-payments, and essential home items. Thank you, Yolanda. And Melissa said, yes, so true. They need to know somebody's in their corner, somebody who can help them navigate as they're already battling. Very true. Yeah. And I believe that Sabrina is that person in their corner oftentimes as their peer support specialist and recovery coach. And I think that sense of belonging and connection is super important, that they have somebody who's not going to look at them like they have the irreversible stain. That I think that phrase is going to stick with me for a very long time, because how often do we look at people and judge them by what they've done, their disability, their disease, any of those things? This is super important for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Andrew, can you go to the next set of questions? Awesome. All right. So this first question is really about honoring Be Strong Families philosophy of we bring our whole person into our personal life, obviously, and into work. We don't check our brains and our hearts at the door. So first, let's talk about, where do you feel the most sense of belonging? And you can just type that or raise your hand. For me, I feel the most sense of belonging with my family at home. Yes, Brenda. Yep. And my second most secure feeling of belonging is my work family. I work with the best people, and I just have a huge sense of belonging there. Who else? Anybody else have a sense of belonging other than family or home? I know I follow a couple podcasters who have like these little squads of girlfriends that that's their sense of belonging. Where's yours? Family, friends, supervisor. Thanks, Yolanda. Sabrina, where do you feel the most sense of belonging?
I was just getting ready to type it in the chat. Recovering Together Cafés and online meeting places.
Yeah.
Yes. And my family, of course.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then Maria said my immediate family, my church family, and her work family. Awesome. So we're going to spend the last 10 minutes talking about our work and ourselves. And the question is, how does your agency promote or facilitate healthy social connections? What are some things you all do to promote this in your community, promote this for your clients? And on the converse side is, how do you do that personally? So first, let's talk about your agency, but then let's pepper in some of our own personal experiences. So Sabrina mentioned the Recovering Together Cafés. That's what her agency does. She does those through the Department of Behavioral Health. Yep, in Washington, D.C. So all of you on here that are from the D.C. area, you'll have to check out some of that stuff. How does your agency promote or facilitate healthy social connections? Be Strong Families, we do these webinars. This was an immediate response to the pandemic, and they have been going on for a long time. We have now added a weekly on Fridays cafe. It's always a taste of a cafe, and those are great and build a great sense of community. Anybody else? Sabrina, when you think about the services that you've been involved with, what were some of the things that those agencies did to promote healthy social connections?
Well, one of them I mentioned was working with the court system and, giving individuals an opportunity to change, to turn things around, a new beginning, where they can, I would advocate for them and give reports back to the court, of them remaining in compliance and, working through their challenges and barriers and, bettering their lives. So that was really one of the things that touched me, was working with individuals that have had incarceration in their background.
That's awesome. And then Kim Robinson offered, we also have parent cafes and groups pertaining to what's going on in the community. Yeah, I love groups for sure. I'm in a lot of different online groups, and I love the fact that I can get really good, pertinent, concrete support. I can rely on most of my groups for good, solid information. And then I can rely on some groups that I feel like have me emotionally. They get me, they understand me, and they unconditionally yeah, you're part of us. I really love that. What does your agency do to promote that feeling? Like, my doors are going to be open and participants are going to come because there's a feeling there. What is that? I always describe the cafes as magical. I love cafes that have that feeling of, I can't put my finger on it, but I know there's something special here. And that doesn't happen with every cafe, but it happens with a lot of them. And I think it's the safe space, the agreements that hold the emotional safety, that group. And I think it's the way we flow through the cafes.
Absolutely.
All right, Andrew, can you go to the next slide? All right, so this is the time of the webinar where we're going to ask you to amplify something. During our month of webinars on diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're asking that you are amplifying something that has to do with DEI. And today it's about building recovery. Building recovery. So we have Andrew saying amplify support. Thank you, Andrew. So if everybody could put a hashtag in, it could be it's hashtag amplify. Let's spell it right, Robyn. Amplify, and I'm going to write amplify community. I think that human beings do better in community. Any other amplify hashtags out there? If you were to amplify something today, Sabrina, what would that be? Oh, you put yourself on mute.
Amplify respect and
Awesome.
support. Respect
Thank
and
you.
support.
Awesome. Yolanda said amplify support teams. Maria said amplify love. I love all of these. Andrew Hitchcock, amplify respect. Amplify strength from Kim. Great. Amplify family, love. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. All right. So there is an ending poll that has shot up on your screen. If you could take that real short poll real quick, that'd be great. And I'm going to continue on with these just last couple slides. So continuing the conversations with Recovering Together Cafe in a Box, we do offer these boxes. There is a QR code up there that will shoot you right over to our resource page if you're interested. Like I said, there's 300 brand new questions that will take your cafes in the direction of supporting Recovering Together. And the next slide, Andrew. All right, if you or your agency is looking to be trained on the Recovering Together team training, we are hosting one November 30th, December 1st, and December 2nd. To register, you can click that code. Andrew has also put the team training link in the chat. This is the training that Sabrina went to. She learned how to be a cafe host for the Recovering Together cafes by attending this training. You got any words to say about that?
Well, it was just nice. It was really nice. The training was, everybody was really open. We had a lot of fun working together, creating workshops. So look forward to an awesome time.
Thank you, Sabrina. All right. Sorry, yeah. All right, the rest of the week looks like this. We have tomorrow, we have a Spanish webinar with Sarah Gonzalez. On Wednesday, we have the importance of peer and family support for recovery by my friend Michelle Lennon and her husband, Daryl. Super excited about that. And I'll be back to co-host. Thursday, again, we go back to our Spanish webinar. And this was with Hector Salazar. And then the Friday is our great cafe, a taste of Recovering Cafe. And that is an hour and a half. Before I talk about this last thing, I want to go back up because Pam offered amplify consideration. I saw that come in and I wanted to make sure that I got hers as well. Thank you, Pam, so much. Okay, Andrew, go ahead. And we do have a new resource out. This is a very cool perpetual calendar and journal with our hashtag amplify logo up there. This is, I believe, based on our AMPU cafes, and it's a great new resource to amplify your intention. So take a look at that on our page. And I love this last one. So we have taken over YouTube. Yay! If you want to see any of our past webinars, a lot of them are there. You can use the QR code or the bit.ly link there to subscribe to us on YouTube. There is a plethora of information that Be Strong Families has offered in the last year or so, and you could take advantage of that. On behalf of myself, I just really want to thank Sabrina Mason. Sabrina, it has been a great hour with you. Thank you for being so open and being able to share your life experiences and your really important work with us. I'm so glad our paths have crossed again. And I'm just really, really honored that you took the time.
Thank you so much. It was a blessing being here. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Absolutely. So on behalf of Be Strong Families, myself and Sabrina, hope you guys have a great day. Thank you, Andrew, for providing wonderful tech support. Everybody go and amplify something.